Hello friends, for today's video I'm going to be doing a book haul, and I haven't done a book haul here on this channel for quite a while because I've been primarily reading books through my local libraries this year and listening to audiobooks through the apps Libby and Hoopla, which are also through my local libraries. But just like pretty much is the case with most of my book hauls, I have been primarily getting books through my local bookstores, and so I just wanted to shout them out really quick. We have Bookmans and Changing Hands. And Changing Hands specifically, if you ever have checked out the website bookshop.org, your purchases help indie bookstores, and you can actually set it up where you can have a specific bookstore be your main bookstore that bookshop.org will connect you to. So if you don't have a local indie bookstore but you still want to support one, definitely check out Changing Hands because they are amazing. But I'm going to start with a couple books that I actually got through Changing Hands. I actually still have my receipt in one of the books so I can remember exactly how much everything costs and the discounts and everything. So these are from Changing Hands. We have The Warden, which was one of my anticipated releases this year, and it sounds really interesting and really fun, but I just haven't had a chance to pick it up yet. And then The Fairy Bargains of Prospect Hill. So I'm hoping I really enjoy both of these. These are ones that I probably would have gotten from the library had they not had them at my local bookstore, but it was indie bookstore weekend, I believe, and so I just wanted to show some love to them. The Warden, I was really surprised because this one was actually already used, and it had only recently come out when I picked it up. There's a little sticker on the side. And then this one was not used, but they had a deal for it being indie bookstore day where you get $5 off. And then they also have a stamp card system, so for every $10 you spend, you get a stamp. And it can be $10 worth of store credit also that you're spending. You don't have to spend cash. So for every $10 that you spend, you get a stamp. And once you've gotten 10 stamps, then you get $10 off your next purchase. So I had one of those. My receipt is reminding me. So I got $15 off, plus I had store credit. So I got these for free. And that's why I'm always saying, check out, well, if you have local bookstores nearby you, check those ones out. But if you're in Arizona or if you visit Arizona, definitely check these bookstores out. They're also just wonderful in general. The staff is always really nice. Changing Hands is cool because they have two different locations. One has a Wildflower Bread Company restaurant attached to it, and then the other one has this awesome cafe, coffee bar in the middle of the bookstore, and then you have a bunch of books on about an L shape around it, and then the other part is a seating area, and you can read and you can eat your pastries or drink your coffee or whatever you want. Play board games. We've gone there to play board games before. So they're lovely. They're great. Definitely check them out. Next up, we have The Hidden Palace. So this is a sequel to The Golem and the Genie, and I have never read that book. However, somebody gifted that first book to us, and I have seen very good reviews for it. So when I saw this one, I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get this one too, so that if I really love that first one, I can just immediately jump into this next one. I don't know much about it though. Have any of you read it? Because if you have, I would love to know your thoughts. Next up, we have a book that I had my eye on for a really long time, ever since it came out, because I just thought it sounded like a lovely fairy tale story. And I'd read a book by this author in the past that was a contemporary romance, but it was a retelling of a fairy tale, and the author is Ashley Poston. It was like, I think, Geekerella, so it was like Cinderella, but she's geeky, right? It's pretty clear. But Among the Beasts and Briars is the book specifically. So when I saw it for a really cheap price, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up. I don't know when I'll get around to it. Maybe I'll try to read it this fall, maybe I'll try to read it next fall or in the winter, so at the end of this year, beginning of next year. But I mean, I like to pick up the occasional kind of fairy tale-esque type of story. So hoping that one is good. I've kind of had some, I feel like a lot of YA as of late. As I get older, I'm obviously even further from the target demographic, and so thus my connection to a lot of newer YA, I would say, is just not there as much, so I'm hoping that that won't be the case with that one. Next up, it's a little damaged, but I was like, that's fine. It was really inexpensive. We have The Throne of the Five Winds. First off, it's an Orbit book, and I feel like over the last few years, Orbit has just had such fantastic releases, but also I've heard really good things from quite a few reviewers, and that people who have similar tastes in fantasy to me seem to really like this one. Pretty chunky. It's over 600 pages. So I'm excited because if I like it, then there's a lot to love. And I believe it's the first in a series. Yeah, it says Hostage of Empire, book 1. And also, can I just say, I love when they put which number in the series the book is on the spine. I love it. It's just a small detail about how they put things together. But I think I don't know, it's so nice. Next up, we have Kaigen the Damned. Every single time I go to the bookstore, I see this, and I don't know why I'm always in that area, because I'm like, what author with an M last name am I looking at that I always end up seeing this book? But I always see it, and then I tell myself, okay, look for this the next time you're at your local bookstore. And either they never have it or I forget to look. But I always see it, and then I always think, like, maybe I should just buy it. Maybe I should just get it. Or maybe I should check it out from the library. And then I actually found it and its sequel. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get these now. So I really hope I like them. I try to not do that anymore. I try not to buy entire series or sequels or things like that before I've read the first one. Every now and then the deal is just so good that I'm like, but what if it's not here next time? And then I will be wasting money. And it's sometimes you're wasting, or store credit, whatever the case may be. But I'm taking a chance on that one. I've looked at the reviews and I'm like, I think there's a good chance I'll like it. Next up, we have The Witness for the Dead. So this is within the same world as The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. I loved that book. And I didn't realize, because I was like, oh, it's a hardcover too. And it was $12 because it's used. But I think it's a library binding. I don't think they typically come in this type of cover, because then I'm like, well, maybe I can get The Goblin Emperor in this style to match, because I have the paperback. I also have the broken binding edition. But anyway, I figured, like, well, maybe I can upgrade my paperback to this sort of edition, and I don't know if it exists like this, so I think this might have come from a library. And then I just mentioned broken binding. I saw they're actually going to do The Witness for the Dead and another one of Catherine Addison's works that exist in the same world. They're going to do them to match their edition of The Goblin Emperor. So I might end up repurchasing this one anyway, but in the meantime, I found it at my local bookstore. That one specifically was from Bookmans. After that, we have a couple of Book of the Month books that I actually just got because I had some credits, because we have an account. Because every now and then I'll have, at the end of the year, I like to read Goodreads winners or nominees or things like that, or I like to dip my toes in other genres, and I find a lot of times Book of the Month is just a very convenient way to do that. Plus, my husband tends to have pretty different reading tastes than I do, and sometimes books he's interested in are available through Book of the Month, and it ends up being cheaper than buying them from, Barnes & Noble or something. Anyway, so the idea of sometimes if I'm dipping my toes in other genres, these two books I've heard really good things about. One of them would be Yours Truly, and the other one would be Lunar Love. I specifically remember back in February, I asked all of you some of your contemporary romance recommendations, and I think a number of you said this one. And when I went to try to check it out from the library, I was like, I'm not getting this anytime soon, because it looked like a lot of people had it on hold. So I was like, that's fine. I have plenty of other things to read. But then I saw Book of the Month had it, so I was like, I have some credits, so I'll go ahead and use it for that. So both of these, next time I'm in the mood for just a cute, nice, fun little, lovely love story, I have those ones. This next one is one that was an anticipated release of mine, I believe last year, and I just never got around to it, and that would be Night of the Raven, Dawn of the Dove. And it seems to be doing quite well, and I'm hoping it'll be one of those, like Fireborn situations where it's a YA book release that people really like, but it kind of went under the radar, and not that many people have picked it up, but then it turns out it's amazing. I'm hoping that's a situation. Fireborn's not the only book that's happened with, but I love Fireborn, so, But that's what I'm hoping. I don't recall too much about it because it's been a while since I read the synopsis, but I just remember that it's kind of similar to what I said about Kaigen the Damned, where whenever I would see it, I'm like, oh, don't forget it, and then I would forget it, and then I finally found it. And then last, we have one more that came from Bookmans, and that would be Outrun the Moon. I have had my eye on this for a very long time. I've just not found it used. But this author also wrote The Downstairs Girl, which is one of my favorite historical fiction books. If you have other historical fiction recommendations, feel free to leave them. But Outrun the Moon sounded really good, and I really, really liked The Downstairs Girl. A lot of times the author takes points in history or specific events and then follows groups that you maybe don't typically associate with that time period and shows what it was like for them at that time. And so this one is one that I think follows that same pattern, and I've wanted, like I said, to pick it up for a while. I've just never found it used until recently, and it was only $9 from Bookmans. So got that with some store credit as well. But that's it for some books that I have gotten recently / over the last few months. I did a recent manga and comics haul also over on FMA, so I'll have that linked if you'd like to see some comics and manga that I've picked up recently. But Bookmans and Changing Hands, they're fantastic, they're great. Definitely check them out. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.